Good morning and welcome to the DFS Army YouTube channel. I'm Razzle11 and you can find me on X at Razzle11Grinds. Going to take a look at some pitching for today, the 2nd of September. It is Monday. We have a 5-game day slate and a 6-game main or evening slate. I don't believe we have any weather issues to worry about today, so we can just dig into the pitching. A reminder, this is a first look, and I will be using DraftKings as that is where a majority of my action is. If you're on FanDuel, I would cut my pitcher pool into about a half or even a third. Pricing isn't as tight, and the scoring system being different allows us to focus mainly at the top tier for pitching on that site. But let's dig in here with the day slate. We get Flaherty against Eduardo Rodriguez. That LA Arizona game. LA is a minus 142 favorite. Game total of 9, which feels a little heavy. Flaherty's K prop at 5.5, juice slightly on the over. Eduardo Rodriguez's K prop 4.5 with juice on the under. Obviously, Arizona's been one of the best teams in baseball the last 2 months or so. Flaherty has made one start against Arizona already and been pretty impressive. It's tough to not want to use him, especially on a smaller slate. I think we just have to include him. 2 out of his last 3 starts have not been all that great. He's allowed 2 home runs in 3 out of his last 4 starts as well. I think it's a spot that we want to actually stack a little Arizona, but also use Flaherty. A decent amount. Actually, not a decent amount. A little bit, I guess, because we do have Burns and even Peralta. I think they're much better spots, obviously, and should be the chalkiest of the top tier. To jump to Eduardo Rodriguez quick, just because we mentioned him, has not looked good pitching in Arizona yet. Coming off of a pretty rough performance. I don't think we want to go to Eduardo. Obviously, the Dodgers lineup is pretty elite overall. A bunch of guys got some rest after getting blown out last night. So I wouldn't really expect any of the main names to sit out this day game at all. So I just don't really have a lot of love for Eduardo. The only reason I might consider him as a flyer is because it is a 5-game slate. But right now, I would say that he's going to be outside of my player pool. Looking in, and probably easily outside of it, because I think I might just go heavy on a couple pitchers on the slate, kind of take some stands. One of those pitchers that I will be heavy on will be Freddie Peralta. K prop of 5.5 with juice really strongly on the over. He's a minus 175 favorite. Game total of 7.5 with juice on the under as well. 3 starts against St. Louis. Does not have a win, but has allowed just 3 runs in those 3 starts. 17 strikeouts. He's been phenomenal. Pitching at home, where his K rate I think is slightly better. Allows a few more home runs. Fantasy points per game are better at home, but overall his numbers are generally better on the road this year, which I believe is different from his last couple of seasons. He's very comfortable pitching in Milwaukee. Coming off of a great start, had kind of been so-so since the All-Star break, but coming off of a really strong start, I think it's just a great spot. Everybody's probably going to be playing him. Not quite as much as the next guy, but Peralta, I really want to go super heavy. I don't know that I'll be able to double the field weight because I feel like he's going to be pretty popular, but maybe a 50% increase on projected field weight is something that I might want to look at on this slate. Corbin Burns wasn't spectacular against the White Sox the first time he faced them. Hasn't been as strong at home. His K numbers have been better at home, but his overall numbers actually have been weaker at home. He has looked rough the last number of starts. Last start only one earned run allowed, but still nothing spectacular. Um, I mean, it's what 33 runs allowed over his last seven starts. Just not ideal form. Uh, the problem is everybody's going to be on him just because it is the White Sox. They are obviously historically bad. He is a minus 395 favorite. Game total of just eight, which I think would put the White Sox projected run total in the twos, um, based on how sizable of a favorite he is. Um, I think we just have to go with it. But I think right now I might have more exposure to Freddie Peralta than Corbin Burns. Uh, Feels like a bold call. I don't know, but if people are looking at recent trends for Burns, he just has not been good. He's not been sharp. Um, but obviously the matchup is spectacular. Michael Walker against Cleveland, I'm not overly interested. He's been pretty decent against Cleveland, and I think might have to sprinkle in a couple shares, um, just because of this slate. But he's coming off a really rough start against Cleveland. His first start against them was pretty strong. He has a minus 115 favorite, but K prop of 4.5 with juice on the under. Not an exciting prop at all. Verlander against Cincinnati. Cincinnati can struggle, but Verlander has not been very sharp. Two starts since returning from the IL. Nothing spectacular by any means. Definitely no starts that would make you go, I wish I had that. Uh, K prop is 6.5, but juices out really strongly on the under. He has a minus 162 favorite. So maybe, but I don't feel great about it. Payante has thrown the ball decently well recently. He's just not a big K guy. Struggling against the Brewers. Uh, just not really somebody I want to have interest in. Uh, the only other guy I am considering here is Gavin Williams. Was pretty solid against Kansas City the first time. He has been at his best when on the road. He can give up home runs, which is a worry. But like I mentioned, Kansas City is just a minus 115 home favorite, so it should be pretty close. Game total of eight with juice on the under. Williams' K prop is at 5.5 with juice very strongly on the under as well. Um, for me on this slate, it's really just Peralta and Burns that I'm focusing in on. A little bit of Flaherty, some Gavin Williams, and then debating Waka and Verlander maybe at this point. Let's switch over to the evening slate. I spent a little more time on that first slate than I would have imagined. We get Logan Gilbert, obviously against Oakland. They're dangerous. We know that. He dominated them the first time, coming off of an elite performance against Tampa Bay. Logan Gilbert certainly going to be somebody that we want to use. K prop of 7.5 with juice on the under. He is a minus 142 favorite. Game total of 7.5 with juice on the under as well in that one. Garrett Cole has not been super sharp. He did dominate this Texas squad. Um, I think he's viable, to be honest. Not been a typical Garrett Cole season, but that's all right. He's a minus 180 road favorite here. K prop is 6.5. Juice is on the under though at this point. Osvaldo Bido paying 8,600 for him uh, feels disgusting, to be honest. But he is taking on a team that strikes out a ton. He has been really strong, surprisingly strong, to be honest. I think he has to be in play. Um, K prop of 5.5. Juice is on the under, uh, but we did mention the game total of 7.5 with juice on the under. I think he's definitely in play. Um, Not somebody I feel like super excited about paying that price point for, but uh, that K upside is really interesting to me. Jared Jones has struggled against the Cubs. Cubs have been winning left and right over the last 2 weeks. No, thank you. Musgrove against Detroit. I think he's certainly somebody that we want to utilize. His best games this season have come at home, even though he is allowing some home runs. 2 starts ago, absolutely dominated the Mets in a big time performance. He is a minus 205 favorite. K prop is 6.5 juice on the under. I think Musgrove certainly falls into a guy that we need to get some exposure to, or more than just some, I guess. Zach Littell making his return from the IL. Be interested. I'm not sure what to expect. Minnesota has had some struggles recently, but I just don't know if I want to trust him. I have to go down and see what he did in the minors just to see before he makes his return. Brian Bayo, somebody that I thought was going to be spectacular, coming off of an elite performance, but taking on a Met squad that I don't know that I want to pick on. His K-Pro's 5.5 with you slightly on the over. He is a slight dog. The Mets are minus 122 favorites. So maybe Bayo makes some sense. I'm just not really sure that I want to go there. We do need to include some pitching into our pool, of course, so he might make it. Jameson Taillon has struggled a bit against Pittsburgh this season. Should look at the weather. Game total of 7.5 with juice on the under. Makes me believe that there's some wind blowing in Chicago. If I dig in more, maybe Taillon and maybe even Jared Jones become viable, but I definitely would prefer Taillon, given that I think his matchup is a little easier. The one guy down here that I am planning to use a bit of would be Simeon Woods Richardson. As you guys know, I've been picking on Tampa Bay quite a bit this season with pitching. SWR here was solid against Tampa Bay the first time he faced them. Was a win away from putting up about 22 fantasy points. Not a huge stealing guy by any means, but he does have the ability to get up to 28 or so fantasy points, which is all we need. The recent walks kind of annoy me. K's have kind of bounced all over the place. I don't expect him to go super clean, but I think he's certainly viable on this smaller slate. But there we have it. There's the first look at pitching. If you enjoy what I bring to you, please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, turn the notification bell on, get the alert anytime we drop videos here at DFS Army. And if you want to join us, get access to our coaches, tools, sheets, Discord, etc., I will put links in the description below. You can use promo code RAZ, that's R-A-Z, for 10% off monthly. And as always, best of luck, everybody.